Welcome back to your free Windows 7 training. In this video, I will be looking at installing Windows 7 using the network. When you are installing Windows 7 to a handful of computers, you're best off using the DVD. If, however, you have a large number of computers, you may want to consider installing from the network. There are many advantages to using a network-based install over the DVD. First, it is easier to customize with a network install. If you add a service pack, drivers, or change a setting, you can change the media directly. Making changes to the DVD means burning a new DVD each time a change is made. Network-based installs scale better than installing from other media types. If you install off a DVD or a USB thumb drive, you need to take the media to the computer you want to install on. Also, if you want to perform multiple installs, you need multiple copies of the DVD or multiple USB flash drives. In order to perform a network install, you can perform one in two ways. The first is via a network share. To do this, you would boot from a network PE boot disk. Windows PE is a CD-based boot disk that replaces the old floppy boot disks. The advantage of this method is that you can create many Windows PE boot disks which will not require updating too often. If you want to make changes to the install media, you simply change the data on the network share. The advantage of using a network share is that the only infrastructure you require is a network share. You can use the network share method on any computer on which you can boot Windows PE to launch the setup. You can perform multiple installs at once from the same network share. However, you won't have any multicasting support. Multicasting allows the same packet of data to be sent on the network to many different computers. If you want to be able to use multicast, you will need to use a system like Windows Deployment Services, otherwise known as WDS. WDS is designed for networks on which you have a lot of computers to perform installs. Because it is aimed more at enterprise networks, it requires more infrastructure than the other install methods. To use WDS requires a domain controller, DHCP, and DNS. The advantage of WDS is that it supports network booting, so you don't require an optic drive to perform the install. Lastly, you need a network card that supports PXE. PXE allows your computer to boot off the network. PXE has been around for a long time, so it is very likely your network card will support it. On some systems, you may need to enable network booting in the BIOS before you can use it. Now that we understand the two methods that you can use to install Windows 7 over the network, I will switch to my Windows 7 computer to perform a network install. First of all, I will look at installing Windows from a network share. To do this, I first need a Windows PE disk to boot my computer. To create a new Windows PE disk, I need to install the Windows Automated Installation Kit. This is available for download from the Microsoft website. I have already downloaded the toolkit and burned it to DVD. Once I insert the DVD, I can run the setup program. The install is quite a simple one. Select Windows AIK Setup, accept the license and install directory, and the software will be installed. The install takes around 5 to 10 minutes, but I have sped up the process so we don't have to wait. Once installed, I need to run the Deployment Tools command prompt from the Start menu. The difference between this command prompt and a regular command prompt is that certain variables are set up so you don't have to know where the programs are located in order to run them. The first command I need to run is copy pe.cmd. This will copy the necessary files for Windows PE to a directory of my choosing. In this case, it will be a 32-bit version of Windows PE. There are not too many files to copy, so the process does not take too long. Once complete, if I list the directory, you can see that a folder called ISO has been created. If I change into this directory, I can now list all the files that will be on the Windows PE disk. If I want to add additional files, it is a simple matter of adding them. For example, if I wanted to add image X, which is used to deploy a customized Windows 7 image, I can copy it to the directory like this. I will cover image X later on in this course, so don't worry if you don't understand what it does at this point. If I now go back a directory, I am ready to create my image. If I create an ISO image now, it will not work. There seems to be a bug in Windows 7 AIK. To get around this, I need to copy the file winpe.wim to the ISO/sources directory with the file name boot.wim. Now that this is done, I'm ready to create my image. To do this, I use the command oscdimg. The command has a number of options. The -n option allows long file names. Since we are creating a bootable CD, you also need the -b option. The -b option specifies a file containing the boot sector needed by bootable CDs. Lucky for us, Microsoft provides us one. Once I have put in the correct options, all I need to do is enter in the directory containing the source files, which will be the ISO directory and a target file. Once complete, Windows will start creating an ISO image for you. The process does not take too long to complete. Once done, you are free to use any burning software to write the image to a disk. Now that the ISO has been created, I'm going to reboot the computer and boot off a Windows PE disk that I created earlier. You will notice that the boot process is the same as when I installed a fresh copy of Windows 7 using either the DVD or USB thumb drive. Once Windows PE has booted, I will get a usable command prompt. From here I can run the command netuse to map a drive for a file server containing the install media. In this case, I simply inserted the DVD into a server and shared it. However, if you wanted to make changes to the media, it is simply a matter of copying the contents of the DVD to a directory on your server and share the directory. Now that the drive has been mapped, I can run the setup program. The setup will run exactly the same way as if I had installed it from the DVD. I won't bother going through the setup process, as it is essentially the same as the video I did previously. What I will do, however, is reboot the computer and demonstrate installing Windows 7 using Windows Deployment Services. On this network, I have a WDS server set up. To access WDS, I will switch to my Windows 7 computer and start it up. On this particular computer, I have the option to press F12 to boot from the network. On your computer, the key may be different. If your computer has an integrated network card, you may need to enable network booting inside the BIOS. You will see the computer gets an IP address from the network. It will then prompt you to press F12. Pressing F12 will cause the computer to download Windows PE from the network. The following screens look the same as the other setup methods because whether using the DVD, USB thumb drive, network, or WDS, Windows PE is still loaded to run the setup. Once loaded, the setup menus look a little different but are essentially the same. Once I have chosen the language I want to use and then chosen the country and keyboard, I will then be prompted for a user account with access to the domain. This ensures that the person performing the install has permissions. On the next screen, you can choose which operating system you want to install. I have already added Windows Server 2008 Release 2 and Windows 7 to WDS. This is one of the biggest advantages of WDS, is that you can use it to deploy more than one operating system. Once I select the operating system, I will be taken to the familiar disk management screen of the setup. Once I select a drive, Windows will start installing. So far, I have covered how to perform a clean install of Windows 7 and how to upgrade to Windows 7. However, in some cases, you will not need to install a new copy of Windows 7. For example, if you purchase a new laptop. This brings us to the topic of our next video, migrating to Windows 7.